Welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed, the premier podcast for innovative growth strategies, hosted by two seasoned experts. Meet Evan Polin, the president of Polin Performance Group, a master in sales coaching with over 2 decades of experience. Evan is not just a consultant, he's a force in sales, focusing on mindset, planning, and skill development. He's also the co-author of Selling Professional Services the Sandler Way. Joining him is Craig Andrews, partner and CEO of Beholder Agency, an expert in growth marketing. With 20 years under his belt, Craig blends marketing creativity with strategy to propel businesses forward, making Beholder Agency a leader in effective marketing solutions. Together, Evan and Craig are here to share their wisdom on winning strategies, best practices, and transformative insights that will fuel your growth. Get ready to revolutionize your sales and marketing approach right here on the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
And welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed. I'm Craig Andrews, and that's my partner in crime. Did I get it?
You got it this time.
Okay, I got it.
Good.
Okay. I was unsure. You know, I have to make sure I'm on point here.
Couple more years and you'll have this down pat.
Hey, but you cannot say that I'm not making progression. You cannot.
Remember what we just said in the previous episode: perfect practice makes perfect.
That's right. That's right. So today we're going to talk about what we do best here, which is the Sales and Marketing Playbook. Is we bring resources to you that can help your businesses grow. And ultimately, when it comes to sales and marketing, a lot of that is also based in strategy. So why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest, Evan? And I hope everybody's excited and ready, because we have a lot of information to throw at you today.
Absolutely. I am very excited to introduce our guest as you bring our guest to the stage. Julio Gonzalez, the founder and CEO of Opticution. Julio is a respected fractional COO, strategic advisor, these days pulling in automation, and he's going to talk a little bit about how your business can be more efficient, can really use automation to optimize your business to help free you up to do those things that you really enjoy doing. So Julio, really happy to have you on the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate being on your podcast. I enjoy talking about what I do and how I help businesses. So excited to share on this other avenue.
So, and before we jump in and start to pepper you with some of those hard-hitting questions, do you want to share with everybody a little bit about your background and what led you to start your business?
Sure. So my background's all technology. I spent my entire career in the corporate world, managing technology departments. I was CIO for the last 12 years of my corporate career. And what I found many, many years ago is that in order to provide a viable technology solution, I had to go into the business. I had to fix the business because they didn't know what they were asking for. They didn't know how to fix their own operations. They didn't have a strong COO in the majority of cases, unfortunately. So I would go into the business, fix their operations, and then help them find a technology solution. So when I decided to go off on my own, I could have gone down the technology route, but it's a highly competitive field. And frankly, there's not a lot of fractional COOs that are focusing on that operation space. And that's what I enjoy. So I'm bringing the successes that I brought to my corporate employers down to small and mid-sized businesses so that they can also benefit from the efficiencies and the ability to scale in order to be successful.
I think what I like the best about what you're saying here, again, right into our target market here in terms of small and medium-sized businesses, is that a lot of times people tend to gloat over the strategy and the foundational stuff. I deal with it every day. Somebody has this vision, and I always call it the creative people. And this is way before we get to the technology, right? We're talking about the creatively, I can do these wonderful things. And I go, let's start with the sales process. Right? How many leads are you getting now? So I know that the AI piece, which is supposed to make life easier, not make you more creative. Why don't we speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So, AI is the latest buzzword. Everybody's talking about AI, and not that it's not, real technology or valuable technology, but everything is AI. And whether it is truly native AI that's been built into platforms or things that look like AI, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue. Every business wants AI, or is actually fighting AI, which is interesting, and not realizing that their employees are using ChatGPT left and right, and they don't have the control around that. So when I talk to businesses, I tell them, you need to embrace AI in whatever form you feel comfortable. But you have to have some sort of position, some sort of approach, some sort of strategy on how you're going to implement AI in your business. And one of the easiest ones, and I say easy because you contract somebody and they do it for you, is the AI assistance. Just had made a phone call yesterday to schedule an appointment with an attorney, and their AI assistant answered the phone, and it was a wonderful experience. It was canned, because that's kind of what it is. But the fact is, I was able to get through the entire scheduling of the call. It asked a lot of questions. It pronounced my name correctly, and it certainly beats press one for this and two for that. So, an AI assistant alone, can save any business a tremendous amount of money. So even if it's just that, have an approach. I want to offload, the calls to my business. I want to offload scheduling of appointments. That is a strategy, and that doesn't require crazy planning. You find a good vendor that's able to do that for you, and you go and implement. But certainly have some internal conversations, even if it's with yourself. Sit down and write down some strategy on how you're going to address AI. Don't just jump into that next shiny object.
And Julio, when folks are using AI properly, what kind of impact can they see to their business? What kind of lets them know that, hey, this was a good investment in time and money? I'm really kind of seeing some kind of return out of being a little uncomfortable and bringing some of this technology into my small and mid-sized business.
It really varies pretty wildly. But I'll say more mature organizations that have a strong implementation are seeing upwards up to 20% performance improvements in the specific areas where the AI is playing, right? There's a lot of AI now in finance. Things as simple as QuickBooks invoice matching. There's an AI that matches the invoice to the charge on your credit card or your bank statement. That can be huge. I personally use Wave Accounting, and while it's not AI, it kind of looks like AI. And this is where I'm saying, you really have to be careful, on whether you're using AI or not. But Wave Accounting, I can reconcile my credit card by just putting in, the balance and the date, as long as everything matches. So there's a lot of AI and AI-like tools out there that can be, huge time savers. What I see most in the smaller businesses is helping with marketing and communications. Smaller businesses don't have the budgets to hire, a lot of marketing folks. So through, pick your favorite AI. I'm going to say ChatGPT because it's the one that I use, but whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Copilot, they all do a fantastic job of crafting messages. So I'm seeing a lot of small businesses kind of offloading, their emails, their emails to customers, their responses to an AI, which makes it so much easier to complete a response. I've seen way too many people having to write a difficult email, and I say difficult, difficult conversation type of email, and they don't know how to phrase it. They, am I saying this nicely enough? Am I saying this, clearly enough?
Mm-hmm.
Toss your ideas into your favorite AI and, write this email and be stern but polite. And, the AI will give you a fantastic email. Just those little things, are helping businesses tremendously. in avoiding wasteful tasks.
What's funny is that one of my old mentors used to tell me, for every gift, there's a pain. That was kind of the phrase he used. And so AI, in a as wonderful as it is, and we use it in various ways in our marketing space, there's also the other side that, clients have it too. And so a lot of times, if you use the tool the wrong way, you have to make sure that you're using it in a way that's very productive. So things that most small businesses are going through, yes, the emails and things of that fashion. But I've seen some stuff that have destroyed brands that was kind of established because it was cute, right? That was pretty, right? And now people are confused. Can you tell us some of the things that would happen if you aren't really incorporating AI in the appropriate way in your businesses?
Well, we've stopped talking a little bit about hallucinations. But, for those who don't realize, AI hallucinates. And, it's not, hallucinating like, we hallucinate, but it certainly makes things up. So it'll find, sometimes the weirdest connections between activities, and it'll respond something that sounds really, correct,
Right.
but it is just not. I don't know if it was the first one, but there's a famous legal case. It was a maritime case, so there's not a lot of maritime, law cases that take place throughout the U.S. So this one stood out because ChatGPT completely made up a case, and the attorney didn't, sounded good to the attorney. He presented it to the judge, and it was a maritime judge who knew his case law.
Wow.
So the attorney got sanctioned and all kinds of stuff. But depending on your business, if it's something that is susceptible to hallucinations, without proper usage, you can end up with very incorrect responses. And that's where it's important to have very accurate, very precise. I forget what the term is, but the prompts, because the correct, valid prompt will generally get you the right answer. But the same way that we're talking about needing to have an AI strategy, do you know enough about AI to have a valid prompt? I've had this conversation many times. Do you start with, help me write an email about flowers? You're going to get all kinds of weird stuff. So, what is it that you're trying to get? Who are you trying to write it as? Who are you trying to communicate to? So it's very different to say, as an expert botanist, write a message to a scientific community that explains how certain types of flowers pollinate different from other types of trees. I'm really going wild on this one, but
I would love to
that's
see
a
that.
very different prompt, from write me an email or an article or whatever about flowers.
Yeah.
So the more precise you can be, the better in terms of getting quality output from an AI. And I'll use this very specific example, and I know it'll play to your background, Craig. I was in a leads group talking AI, and we had a marketing person, and he does commercials, and he is accustomed to creating storyboards, for the filming of those commercials. His storyboards, and I'm sure anybody that works in that space, are very precise. This is the scene. This is what I want to see. The colors, the lighting, blah blah blah. His prompting of AI is phenomenal because he's accustomed to having to create very specific storyboards.
Yeah.
So when he prompts ChatGPT or any of the others, his prompts are all very precise. I just had someone on my podcast, an attorney. He has, 1-page prompts to get what he's trying to find. It's that level of detail that he needs to be able to get what he wants out of the AI.
So small and mid-sized business owners that are concerned that, AI is going to take over everything, probably don't really need to worry about that. And going back to that maritime law case that you just referenced, I could see that a lot of companies could get themselves in a lot of trouble if there is not
Absolutely.
a human, not somebody strategic, overlooking whatever may go out and just assuming that the AI is going to get it right the first time.
Yeah, I mean, over time, yes, we are going to have job loss. Look at Star Trek. At least Star Trek Next Generation, where you can talk to the computer. I don't know in their society how they make any kind of money if it's just all everybody's happy. But over time, you will lose jobs to AI because things will become more and more automatic. In the short term, let's call it. I was going to throw out some years. In the short term, it is much more important to learn how to use the AI, how to leverage it for maximum benefit, rather than being afraid of losing jobs to it. And I'll liken it to the PC. A ton of accountants lost their jobs thanks to Excel and ERPs and things like that. How long did that take? And AI has been a much faster evolution, which is why I thought twice about quoting numbers. But again, it's more important that you become an expert on how to use it, how to leverage it, rather than being afraid of it. And a tool that I talk about a lot is Gamma. And there's other tools out there that create presentations for you. But going back to your earlier question, Craig, about time saving and efficiency, and I would much rather give Gamma an outline and some criteria than sit here for 4-6 hours trying to come up with the perfect presentation. Gamma, if I give Gamma my color standards and how I like to see things, it'll go and create the presentation for me in a matter of minutes. So I may spend an hour tailoring my message, my outline, but I'm not sitting there trying to adjust images and colors. I don't need to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
That is a very appropriate use of AI. Is that eliminating someone's job? Yeah, maybe in a larger organization, but those organizations are going to have a more mature need for manipulating a PowerPoint presentation than a small to mid-sized business that just needs a quality product.
Good point.
And what kind of challenges are small businesses going to run into if they don't embrace AI?
Good question.
They may not embrace it. Their employees have. Guaranteed that every employer, most employees, at least in office settings in any small to mid-sized business, are leveraging ChatGPT to make their own jobs easier. The risk is that they are more than likely using the free version of those tools. So how much of your data is being used to train the AI and is now public knowledge? And that's where strategy comes in. So how are we going to use AI? What are we going to put into the AI? What controls are going to be put around that AI? Copilot by Microsoft is one that has very, very strict controls, and you can manage it from your Office 365 license. So that is one of the I'll say more mature from a management perspective. And with so many companies using Office products, it's kind of a no-brainer. Chat GPT, you can get a professional, let's call it professional, the paid version. But if you don't go in and switch the "don't train the model with my data" button, you're still training the model. So that gets you a little bit better than just straight Chat GPT. But do you know to go and flip the switch? So there's a lot of little things. They don't have to be complex, but again, you need to have a conversation with a professional. How do you plan on using it? What do you plan on putting in? If you're in any kind of healthcare space, you cannot use any of these public language models because they are not HIPAA protected, to my knowledge. There are surely HIPAA versions, So you have to make sure that your staff is using those HIPAA protected AIs, because there's fantastic usage of AI in the healthcare space, but you have to protect the data appropriately. One of the biggest uses is X-rays. Very few X-rays are read by humans anymore, unless the AI detects that there is an anomaly. For the most part, the X-ray is not being passed to a human because there's just not enough radiologists. So, tons of fantastic uses in the healthcare space. They have to be very, very well protected.
And pulling it back, this is the sales and marketing playbook. For you, what best practices have you seen of AI when it comes to either marketing functions or sales functions?
From a sales perspective, there's a lot of tools out there that are helping in the sales process. A lot of, I'll call it customization. I don't know that that's the appropriate term, but they're finding the right clients. The AI tools are doing a great job of honing in not just the message but the audience. So a lot of great funnel tools that are leveraging AI again to get you to the right individual. I mean, think about it. Let's call it in the olden days, you would send an email, a letter, whatever it is that you're sending out, you'd blast it out to your entire, client base, all of your leads. Now you can send very tailored messages that may be very specific to an industry. You still send something out to 1,000, 2,000 individuals, but now with the use of AI, you can tailor that to the market size, to the industry. If you have a little bit more knowledge about that company, you can throw in some tailoring on their specific business. So there's some really great messaging capabilities that go beyond just how do I write this email, that you can leverage to reach out to your customer base in a very tailored way.
So even Evan, one of the past guests that we had sales for AI training.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think as one of the ways to kind of conclude this is it's already touching us in almost every industry. I find Absolutely. It hard to believe that zero industries. Actually, somebody did challenge me the other day, and they said electricians AI doesn't really affect. And I said, give it time. If it is not already there, give it time. Because it might be some level of making the job easier for the electricians. But the actual technical work, no, not that I can visualize right now, not yet. But to the example of the sales training with AI, Evan, that we had in a past guest, to the examples that Julio brought up, it's really meant, and I'll just kind of, from our marketing perspective, it's meant to be something that saves you time in addition to putting the process in place so that you can technically do other tasks.
Right. Or multiply by 10.
Yeah.
That the amount that you're able to do.
So Julio, I was thinking about somebody else. Julio, we're going to give you a couple seconds here to think about 3 tips that we want you to leave with our guests. And as we do that, Evan, why don't you explain to everybody in terms of the sales and marketing playbook, where we can find them? I know that we're coming up towards the end of the year, in the last quarter, we're going to probably do some stuff in reference to ways to close out your year.
Yep. So again, for the sales marketing playbook, you can find us on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. For most of you who, unless you're looking to lose your appetite, you can also find us on Spotify, Apple, where you can only listen to us and don't need to look at us. Over the next couple of months, we're going to have a number of great guests, just like Julio. We are also going to look at goal setting for 2026 and how to set yourself up for success for next year. Different things that you should be looking at with both your sales campaigns, your marketing campaigns to close out the year strong. So look forward to that. And at this point, we've got about 60 episodes in the bank. So please go back, listen to some of your favorite episodes, some of the ones that you didn't catch. There may be some good nuggets in there for you to take, really good usable information that you can immediately put into practice with your business. So Julio, hopefully we've bought you enough time. If you can provide our listeners with 2 or 3 great tips, as well as the best way for folks to be able to find you.
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones, I think, it's the first one, is talk to your staff, ask them what they're doing about AI today, and don't approach it in a way that they might think that you're chastising them, but a legitimate conversation. Are you using AI in your day-to-day job? What are you using it for? What outcomes are you trying to get out of it? Because it's critical to understand what is in use already. Because again, you may not have a strategy, your employees do. They're trying to make their lives easier. So that's my first tip. Find out who's using what. Next tip, reach out to some expert technology, whether you're a technology vendor, a strategy person such as myself. Come up with an AI strategy. What are you trying to get out of AI? What improvements, what efficiencies are you trying to get out of AI? Have the difficult conversations. What can we, what should we, what shouldn't we? But you have to have that strategy. And my last tip, don't be afraid of AI. It is going to, I was going to say consume, but not a good choice of words. It is going to impact your business positively. So find the best ways of leveraging AI in your business before your competitors do. Because they are out there having the same conversations that you're having with the same concerns. It's not like you're going to be first to market at this point, but find those opportunities in your business, embrace it, become an expert with it, because it can truly transform your business and your customer experience in a very positive way. So go find somebody great to talk to and have those conversations about how to maximize the benefits and value of AI in your business.
So, and Julio, after listening to this episode, if people think that great person could be you, how can they get in touch with you?
So with my recent rebranding, now that we are Opticution, all of our social media is Opticution, OPTICUTION. So that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. The webpage is www.opticution.com, and you can email me at julio@opticution.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much today, Julio. It's very insightful information. And again, we're the Sales and Marketing Playbook. We deliver results for you guys to take action on so that you can grow your businesses. You have a growth coach, you have a growth marketing agency, and you have the salesman extraordinaire right there in the center. And if you guys have any more questions, by all means, like, post, comment. We're willing to answer it, and we're not afraid of you guys. And so now, again, thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us on this exhilarating journey through the world of sales and marketing. Remember, the playbook is in your hands, and the possibilities are limitless. Keep exploring, experimenting, and innovating, and watch as your business reaches unprecedented levels of success. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed on all major podcast platforms, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for even more exclusive content. Until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.